Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our faculty student pairs research panel. The first of many events that are going to be taking place virtually on the Rutgers-Camden campus as part of our research week. Can we slide to the next slide, Mike? So the purpose of our conversation today is really to learn about the value of undergraduate research from the perspective of both students and faculty who have participated in it together, and to identify why and how you, members of our audience, can connect to undergraduate research opportunities on the Rutgers-Camden campus. If we had to summarize the purpose of this conversation in a tweet today, it would be this: undergraduate research is for you. Whether you are a faculty member, whether you are a student, there is a place and a reason for you to connect to undergraduate research. Next slide, please. So my name is Michael D'Italia. I'm the Director of Student Success Initiatives for the Division of Student Academic Success at Rutgers-Camden. And I'll be one of our co-moderators for the conversation today. And I am joined by my good friend and partner in crime, Dr. Jane Siegel. Jane, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're really excited about this panel. I am the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Education and Research in the College of Arts and Sciences. And together with Michael, we co-chair a committee on undergraduate research, and we're really hoping that the students among us and faculty who are joining us as attendees might get inspired to think of ways they might be able to collaborate with each other for additional research. So I'll turn it back to Michael.
And the reason that we are anticipating that inspiration is because we are joined today by a spectacular group of panelists. If y'all could just really briefly introduce yourselves in the order that you see on the slide in front of you.
Hello, my name is Andrew Abeda. I'm an assistant professor in the psychology department.
Hi, my name is Jinglin Fu. I'm an associate professor in Department of Chemistry and also a member of CCIB.
Hi, I'm Charlene Myers. I'm a professor of history. I direct a center called March, which is the Mid-Atlantic Regional Center for the Humanities.
Good morning, I'm Kimberly Moran. I'm an associate teaching professor and director of the Forensic Science program.
And now that we've had a chance to meet all of our esteemed faculty who would be joining or who are joining us today as panelists, I would love if our students could also briefly introduce themselves, again, in the order that you see on the slide.
Hi, everyone. I'm Janeli Santos. I am a senior and majoring in psychology, Spanish, and global studies.
I'm Anthony Montecarlo. I'm a fourth-year biology major and 2022 cohort Mark Fellow, majoring in biology and minoring in leadership studies.
Hi, my name is Audrey Johnson. This is my fourth year. I am a history major and a film studies minor.
Hi, I'm Juliana. I am a third-year biology major with a minor in forensic science, and I am a Mark Fellow.
Now that we've had a chance to meet our panelists, just a couple of housekeeping items before we hop into our conversation. First, panelists, for the sake of time, because there are so many of us and we want to hear all of your perspectives, we would ask that to the best of your ability, other than when you're describing your research experience, that you try to keep your responses to 2 minutes or less, roughly. If we start to go crazy over time, I'll shoot you a message in chat. But if we could just be mindful of that. And then for our guests in the audience, if you have any questions that you would like to ask our panelists, please put them in the chat. And towards the end of our presentation or our conversation today, as we have time available, we are happy to address them. With all that said, would love to hop right into our conversation. So Mike, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. First, panelists, we would love for you to briefly describe your research experience. And if you could just touch on how did you connect with your research partner? What did your research focus on? How long did your research experience last? And then finally, what were some of the outcomes or outputs that your research produced? And Dr. Abeda and Janeli, I'd love if we could get started with you.
Of course. So I met Dr. Abeda my freshman year when he first came in. It was during like a connection between professors and students. It was like an event on campus. I connected with him because he came in and I was like, oh, let me talk to Professor Abeda. He talked to me about psychology and how he just got here. And I was like, oh, so what are you focused on? Like, what are your topics that you want to research about? And he was talking to me about nostalgia and first generation college students. And me being a first generation college student, I was like, oh, that's perfect. I really like this. It's a topic that I could really reflect on and really bring things like topics or like information about to the table. And I felt really comfortable with it. I was like, okay, this is great. So we researched about nostalgia and first generation college students. And it was great. Like I did 2 years, which is basically 4 semesters doing independent study with Professor Beta. And we got presentations in for Circa for 2 years. Unfortunately, last year we weren't able to really present because of COVID, but it was really great. I really enjoyed my experience. I learned a lot from him. And honestly, I can't imagine what it would be like if I didn't do this opportunity.
And yeah, so what I'll say about the experience was it was great to connect with students. I'm always interested in getting to connect with students because that's something that was really impactful for me when I was a college student. Like Janeli, I'm also a first generation college student. I'm Latino, and it was something. Colleges can be very intimidating, and I think that's something that we really bonded over, and we're able to use both of our experiences and put together some really nice research projects that are continuing to bear fruits even after Janeli's time in the lab.
Thank you both. Dr. Fu and Anthony, would you please describe your research experience together?
Oh, yeah. So as I said, I'm a faculty of chemistry. So my research primarily focus on the nucleic acids and the nanotechnology. And so we have been working on that for the past 7 or 8 years. And in the past, my lab has many undergraduate student researchers from biology, chemistry, and physics department. So I think Anthony can talk more later about Anthony. He's Rutgers Mark Fellow, and he's quite interested in the biomedical related research. So so he contacted me, and we discussed about several possibilities for his research experience, and especially over the past year, there's the pandemic, right? So many the laboratory research has become quite difficult for undergraduate students. So we first work up virtual research, a computational based research. Then I think in the fall of last year, and Anthony was approved for return to the laboratory research. So then he can continue his research. Use his knowledge learned from computational study, now apply this to the laboratory research. But I will leave Anthony talk more about his experience.
Yeah, so like Dr. Fu said, I've met him through the MARC program, which is a program that sort of sponsors people who are interested in MD, PhDs, or PhDs in the biomedical science field. And so, talking with him, meeting him through that program, I realized that there were a lot of opportunities for undergraduates in his lab. And so specifically, my research experience deals with trying to characterize, different enzymes that conduct different types of reactions. And that's sort of just a very basic sort of surface level synopsis of what my research entails. There are a ton of different opportunities in Dr. Fu's lab, and I've been involved with a number of different experiments, projects, and I've learned a ton of skills, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little later. And so, yeah, my research experience really in person, a bulk of it began in the fall and is carried over into the semester. And so I hope to complete essentially the project that I'm working on now within the next few months. And in terms of outcomes of the experiments, there's still a little bit more that we need to know. So I can't say for sure about sort of what exactly the outcome of these experiments are. But in outputs, I am presenting at Kirka later on this week. On Saturday, I'm doing an external presentation at a virtual conference. And then on the first Saturday of May, May 1st, I'm also presenting at Rutgers Biology Day as well.
That's excellent, Anthony. And thank you to you both for sharing. Dr. Myers, Audrey, would you like to go next?
Sure, we'll go next. So I have a couple of ongoing research projects that students connect with at various times. They could connect through their classes. Sometimes they continue their work as employees after our semester is finished together. So one of those projects is the Encyclopedia of Greater Philadelphia. And through that, we're building a new understanding of our region, one topic at a time. And students learn the research process first by fact-checking work by scholars, and then they go on often to do their own research. The second project is learning from Cooper Street. And through that project, we're working on understanding how Camden grew and changed, and by extension, how cities grow and change. And we do that by delving into the lives of residents who previously lived and worked on Cooper Street. And this semester, we're extending that work into the central blocks of our campus, which were a neighborhood prior to urban renewal in the 1960s. So we're learning a lot about them. Students usually connect with these projects by enrolling in a class. There's an individualized experience called public history practice. And then often these projects connect with other classes I teach in urban or public history, and sometimes classes that other faculty teach in history or in English or in other fields. As far as the outcomes of this research, we have digital platforms, which if I don't get these in, there they are in the chat. They start there, but they can also take other forms. For the encyclopedia, we will eventually publish books. And for Cooper Street, we do walking tours. We've done some exhibits. And I expect there could be some publishing going on from that project as well. But everything starts out, it's a digital first approach to research that then takes other forms. So I think I'll stop there and turn it over to Audrey so she can talk about how she's connected.
All right, so I connected with Dr. Myers through public history practice, which is a undergraduate course offered, and it's a experimental learning course. So basically, when you go into the course, I chose a topic as long as it has to do with Cooper Street. And so my topic was studying the employees of Victor Talking Machine Company and their proximity to the Camden waterfront, but specifically their presence on Cooper Street. And when I first started off my project, I initially thought that I was just going to do a paper and possibly some sort of physical public history exhibit. But as I was doing my research, I ended up doing a interactive map in a blog that was eventually posted on our Cooper Street blog. And it was really exciting to learn the history of only right outside of our campus. And because of this research, I have continued research with the March Center and the Encyclopedia of Greater Philadelphia, which Dr. Myers mentioned. And I've been able to continue my research as well in further urban history courses that Rutgers offers, and continue research into the residents of not only Cooper Street, but also the residents who used to live where our campus is currently today.
That's excellent. Thank you both. Dr. Moran, Juliana, can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Sure. Well, I'll be perfectly honest. Prior to working with Juliana, I really did not work with undergraduate students very much because, you know, a big portion of my position is dealing with the master's program in forensic science, and the master's students have to do research. So there's a high level of urgency with making sure they all have projects and they're all being supervised. So I had sort of known Juliana. She had done a class with me, which I'll let her tell everyone about. She'd done some lab shadowing with me. And then one day I get an email from Dr. Kwang-Wan Lee in biology about the MARC program. And he had a student who was interested in doing a forensic project. And with that, I'll hand it over to Juliana.
So I first met Professor Moran back in my fall semester 2018, my freshman year, when I decided to shadow her lab for her Arc Street project. And then I decided to take her learning abroad course in the UK that studied the how forensic science is practiced in the UK in comparison to the United States. And I just always had a strong interest in forensic science. And then spring 2020 came around and I applied it to the MARC program and got in. And then Dr. Kwang-Wan Lee knew that I had an interest in forensic science and partnered me up with Professor Moran. So that's how pretty much started. That's how I got to start the project with her. And as for my research, what my study is focusing on is determining if a structure called a bar body, which is found only in females, is a reliable way to determine sex in samples of forensic significance. So like, for example, I'm trying to figure out whether if I collect a blood sample from a crime scene, I can narrow down suspects of a crime just by sex because of the identification of the structure, whether it's present or absent. And so far, it's been quite a learning experience. So it's interesting because prior to this, I had no research anything, nor did I really like delve into forensic science. So I just taught myself a lot of things. And so far, I'm still working on it. I'm still in the process of like collecting samples from volunteers to observe under a microscope and figure out whether or not it's reliable or not. But we expect to have a decent percentage that shows that this is a reliable way. I won't really know until I have all my specimens, which is going to be trickling into the fall semester, and hopefully I'll be done by the time I graduate. If not, I plan on going to the master's program and hopefully I could work on it there. But yeah, I presented at Abercam's last fall, and I'm presenting for Virtual Bio Day in May. So yeah.
I know we're going to be talking more about skills later on, but one of the ththings I've been so impressed through this whole experience is just the incredible range of skills that Juliana has developed. She knows how to do things that I don't know how to do. And so that's been a really just amazing kind of aspect of this undergraduate research experience.
That's great. And so if anybody in the audience has some extra blood to spare, please send it Juliana's way. But maybe to dive a little bit more into skills and other benefits, students, that you've received from participation in your research experiences, I'm going to hand things over to Dr. Siegel to ask our next question.
Thanks, Michael, and thank you all for sharing that. I have to say, it makes me so excited to hear the variety of projects that you all are working on together, and it just drives home how great it is to be in a College of Arts and Sciences, because you have all these different kinds of activities going on, and it's really inspiring. And thank you all, both the faculty and the faculty for your willingness to work with the undergrads, and the students for your curiosity and drive to do this work. So this question is really directed at the students, and sorry, faculty, but there's going to be another panel on Friday just for the faculty participating in research with undergraduates. So we thought we would take this opportunity while we have the students here to tell us what personal, professional, social benefits you might have gotten from participating in the research experience. So maybe we can start with Janeli, because we're picking on her to be the first to go, I guess. Janeli, do you mind being first?
Oh, I don't mind, it's fine.
Okay.
I feel as though independent study with Professor Beta, it was really great. I learned a lot about research. It was something I was really into at the moment when I first started. I was like, oh, this is great. I get to work with someone that understands where I'm coming from, a first generation college student. it made me grow more with the first generation community. And I really like that because I know that that community is not really brought up a lot. And research, it made it even better because I like learning a lot about first generation college students and going into that. And the skills I got were to like know how to make the questionnaires, how to look at the data and see what I can do with it. When I did the presentations for Circa, it was more so I need to learn more how to put it all together. And I mean, Dr. Beta really was a good guideline. He helped me a lot. Like I can't even imagine how much he helped me. I honestly, I learned way, way too much. And for professional, like I'm about to graduate. I already applied to grad schools and I already knew what I wanted to do. Like I was so set forward of what I wanted to do. Like, okay, I can do some research. I can do this. I can do that. It actually really helped me out to kind of narrow down what I want to do in the future and how many skills I have under my belt now in case someone tells me, oh, let's do research. I already know what to do, kind of. Although kind of I say, right? But honestly, independent study is the best thing you can do, especially with professors, because they understand that you're a student. They do not expect you to be perfect. They expect you to come in and ask questions and make sure that you're learning what they're giving you, because at the end of the day, they want you to improve. They want you to be the best you in research. They don't want to judge you. They want to help you out. And out of all this experience I had, 4 semesters is a long time. Yeah, I know. But the skills you get are worth more than anything. I can't imagine the last 2 years of what I could have done. I don't really look back to it because I feel as though I grew as a person, and the amount of skills you learn is really hard to kind of narrow it down because you'll know once you do independent study what you learn and what you got from it. But I got into grad school, so I mean, I did something good. I got into at least 5 programs already. And I would have done it if I didn't do research and I didn't do this because I learned what I wanted to do. And hey, if it helped me, it helped so many students. And never be afraid to contact professors to do study. Like, independent study is really not as hard as it seems. Like you're not expected to know everything. So please reach out to a professor if you're willing to do it.
That's great. Thank you, Janeli, and congratulations. Wow, you really are batting 1,000 there, getting into 5 grad programs. That's incredibly impressive. That's great. And I'm sure that your work with Dr. Abeda really contributed to your success, in addition to your academic record, no doubt. Anthony, how about you? What personal, professional, social benefits did you get?
Yeah, so a lot of what Janeli said really resonated. And so I can touch on a little bit more about my experience as well, since I think a lot of our experience is sort of cross-cutting in terms of being first generation. And so personally, I also haven't really been exposed to the field of research from my family, from people who surrounded me. And so just for a little context too, which I forgot to mention when I introduced myself, the first 3 years of college, my goal was to attend medical school. And so I really worked diligently in my classes, really just focused on sort of the academic component, but not really much else. And so I'll save a little bit more on that for later, but I just wanted to say that for a little bit of context. So touching on those 3 points. So personally, I feel like I've made a lot of progress in terms of being able to pull, many pieces of information from all of the classes that I've learned, using all of that knowledge in a very cumulative way, and being able to formulate insightful thoughts, questions, and really draw conclusions about what I see day to day in research. And I think that's really something that's special in terms of the hands-on learning experiences that you get by conducting research. And professionally, I attribute a lot of my success to Dr. Fu, as well as a graduate student in our lab named Esri. And I think that is really for the most part because I haven't really been exposed to research before. And so I learn a ton through working with them, having them there to answer questions, And I really felt that I've grown because of, their mentorship. And so I think both of them, really helped me to piece together what I see, to also, again, formulate different questions. And I think that they really, in essence, having a good mentor really helps you build up your confidence and be able to stand on your own 2 feet, later on down the line when you start to really be confident in your ability to ask scientific questions and to perform research. And so I'm very thankful for the environment that Dr. Fu sort of creates in the lab. It's very collaborative, and I'm almost certain that's the case for a lot of labs on campus. And then to touch on the final point for socially, I've met a lot of good friends of mine through research in the past year. My friend Omri and I are essentially attached at the hip. We've taken multiple classes together. We're constantly, breaking each other's stones back and forth, having fun. But we get a lot done too. And I think that is also another unique part of research, is that you really meet other students who are very driven, who are, willing to help each other out, and who are really collaborative. And I think that's something that's very special. And I think those are the friendships that really, last throughout the years of college.
Great, thank you so much. It's really an interesting perspective. And I can't remember, I think Audrey went next.
Yeah. So I learned so much from taking public history practice and then further on working with Dr. Myers in the March Center in the Encyclopedia of Greater Philadelphia. Dr. Myers really takes you step by step. I had little research experience when I first started public history practice. And so you really go step by analyzing primary sources, by doing your and then analyzing secondary sources that support primary source material, as well as developing your own research and thesis and everything else that goes along with that. I was able to hone so many different skills, whether that be digital design, from making an interactive map, to my writing skills, to just research skills like studying census records, city directories, everything that goes along with that. So that was really helpful. And then professionally, I would say this research experience and my further research experience with Dr. Myers is that I was definitely able to use that experience for my future. I'm also going to be attending graduate school. I have been a BA MA student within the history department the past year, although I won't be continuing with Rutgers, unfortunately. That experience has, with my research, has led me to where I'll be going in the future. So I'm so excited, and it's really helped me out these past 2 years, I guess it would be.
Great, so we'll forgive you for not continuing at Rutgers Camden, but congratulations, that's wonderful.
And Audrey was accepted to 3 graduate programs, I have to say. And I want to add that Audrey taught me how to make digital maps. So this research experience worked both ways for our skills.
I must say, I love, that both you and Professor Moran have mentioned the fact that you've learned something from your students. I love when that happens, learning stuff, and when the faculty learns things from their students. It's really terrific. So last but not least, we'll turn to Juliana.
Okay, so I would say, as Professor Moran mentioned, I went into this with no skills that were directly related to my research. So I sat there and I taught myself how to create a blood smear. I sat there and looked up what you needed to make a certain stain so I can stain my specimens. It was a lot of self-teaching, and it was rewarding because it shows that you have the potential to do something if you put your mind to it. And I did it. And now it's just like second nature to me. And it's pretty cool because I never thought I would do any research to begin with, let alone be good at what I do. And as for professional, this experience really solidified my connection with Professor Moran, because before it was just, I shadowed her lab and I took her courses, but now I actually have like a good connection with her. I have a healthy mentor-mentee relationship. And this experience also solidified that I want to get a master's and go to grad school. And I am staying within Rutgers, and I plan on going to the forensic science master's program here. I plan on applying to it. And before I came in this to college, oh, sorry, my cat. But before I started my undergrad, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I know I like forensic science. And it's just crazy how like all these elements just added up to this point and led me to this direction. And it really feels like there's no other path for me to take, because I feel like this is meant for me. And I don't think, had I not had this research experience, I would have had that like confirmation for myself.
Well, that's great. And sounds like you might be successful at getting admitted to the program, but I don't want to presuppose that, but sounds like you have an edge, maybe. And I hope the faculty are all basking in the reflected glory of hearing how much this experience has meant to your students. And thank you all for having taken this on and worked with them, because clearly it's got tremendous benefit for the students. So now we'll turn to our next question, to Michael.
I'm one of those people who tends to lurk in
Mike,
gallery mode. And so one thing that I was noticing as our students were sharing was not only like the substantial head nods from their faculty mentors, but also just the way each one of them lit up as you were talking about your experience. And so Dr. Siegel, you kind of spoke to the mutual benefit, right? For all participants in these experiences. And that was just a beautiful thing to watch kind of come to life in people's faces. But let's continue with our conversation. Our next question, and I think you've all touched on this a little bit, but we'll give our faculty a chance to inform this one as well. What lessons did you learn through this research experience that might be helpful for others interested in undergraduate research? And then specifically, how did you navigate any challenges that arose? And what would you suggest are some best practices related to participation in undergraduate research? And Dr. Moran, Juliana, I'd love to flip the script and start with y'all this time.
Sure. So I think something that answers several of those questions is that structure is key. One of the things that Juliana and I do is we have a standing meeting every 2 weeks. So we are all, we have that in the calendar. We check in with each other. It means that Juliana knows there's kind of like an impending deadline for something because we're going to be meeting face to face. Me, I know that I probably have something to review or I have something to do on my end. So structure is just so important to kind of best practice in terms of, maintaining communication, making sure the project is moving forward, and to addressing problems when they arise as well, as long as you know that you're regularly in contact with one another. Juliana, anything that comes to mind for you?
I would say that don't be afraid to ask for help. A lot of the times, as I feel like students, we are afraid to reach out to a professor, but when it's research, it's really different because they don't expect you to know everything. And she was always, never have we had a meeting where it was like, well, you should have done this, or I expected this to be completely aced, or you knew the skill like nothing. It was always like, well, next time work on it and have at least some amount done, or update me so I know where you stand. And it's a very relaxed relationship, I would say. It's never they don't lay the handle too hard.
And I can understand how the structure of the relationship and kind of timing it out could really contribute to that. Thank you. Dr. Myers, Audrey, what would you throw into the mix?
So I think I would pick up on that and say there is a difference between the structure of a typical class experience and the structure of doing research. That research is more open-ended in a way that can feel a little scary. Projects don't necessarily fit in one semester. There's the unknown when you're doing research. You don't know what the outcome will be. And sometimes it's surprising that there's more involved in completing a research project than in turning in a paper. And so our solution to that with these projects is that they are ongoing projects that students can plug into and back out of and plug back into. And that, I think, has been one of the challenges, and that's the way that we've addressed it. I just noticed, Audrey, someone who did public history practice with you has just published their project on the research blog. So you know, the experience doesn't go away at the end of one semester.
And I think along with that as well, like one thing I personally learned is to be extremely adaptable and extremely open-minded, especially I think that's just the nature of research to begin with. What you initially think your thesis is going to be, or your intended project at the end, might look significantly different by the time you actually get to the end of the project. When I first started my Cooper Street project about the Victor Talking Machine Company employees, I originally was just going to do a paper. It wasn't going to be, there was going to be a public aspect involved with it, but it wasn't going to be what it ended up being, which was a digital map. And I didn't even know that it was going to really be an interactive map, maybe until like a little before halfway through the semester. And I had thought about it and I was like, you know what? Let's see if we can work this out. And of course, with that, just being really adaptable to saying, okay, does this program work? Does that program work? And understanding that your first like solution A isn't always going to, you might need plan B to back you up.
Yeah, I think we kind of go through these projects discovering what we know and what we don't know, both in terms of our knowledge and skills. Because I can remember in your group, Audrey, that suddenly everyone realized, well, we don't know how to organize our research. And since you hadn't had that experience in another class, we quick set up a great workshop with our friends at the library to help us understand some of those tools. So that changes every semester when we go forward with these projects.
So it sounds like that adaptability is crucial on both sides. That's really important to know. Thank you. Dr. Fu, Anthony, what lessons have you learned from your research partnership?
Okay, so I will speak first. I think the one thing I want to point out, the Rutgers Camden still is primarily undergraduate student focused institute. We have many undergraduate students and a limited number of graduate students. So to involve the undergraduate student into the research actually is quite important for some faculties. For example, for me, I involve undergraduate student in research can help me to accomplish the research task. So this will fit the unique environment of Rutgers Camden. So I want to highlight not only this research will benefit students, but also will benefit faculty and also research as the entire campus, as a whole campus. And also the other thing, I feel that to help students involved in research actually can broaden their learnings from class. The general student, they learn some, I would say, the basic skills from class or from the lab teaching, but that's just a minimum. I'm not sure for other majors, but for science majors like chemistry, biology, or physics, these majors are highly laboratory focused. So students, they need to enter the real lab to get a real hand experience. I think maybe Anthony can later talk more from his end, right? Generally, for example, for my experience, I can incorporate my lab teaching for the next level independent research. For example, we held a class, like a lab class, right? These will teach students the basic skills. Then if a student, they are interested, they can start from these basic skills and to run into the more comprehensive research project. And another thing, I think maybe Charlie mentioned that all the class learning or all the lab teaching for this one, we know what the result looks like. They have because we know the end, right? However, research is open-ended. We don't know the answer. For example, one thing in Anthony's project, during his experiment, we keep see the new phenomena. Now to test these new phenomena, then we need to design new experiments. So it's all open-ended. And I think this is very good for students to training their logic learning, critical thinking. Yeah, and I would like Anthony talk more about on his side experience.
Yeah, so it's definitely, so far it's been basically me following a trail of breadcrumbs, seeing, new unique things that we didn't really expect to see at first. And so I think that also sort of ties nicely into the answer that I sort of thought about. I think that definitely a lesson that I've learned is really just, how it's a bit difficult really navigating your first sort of big research experience, because it's not anything like your classes. And I think that's really the biggest takeaway, is that you don't really know definitively, how things might end up, what you might see. And I think that in a way, you sort of have to learn to be a little bit comfortable with that, and being able to navigate that. But I feel like going through this sort of experience, following these breadcrumbs, it's really sort of just really helped me grow as not only a researcher, but as a student too. And I sort of think, more insightly about different things in my classes, sort of pick up on that knowledge again, using everything cumulatively. And so I think just being persistent, being able to work through that sort of uncertainty is the biggest takeaway, I think, for me. And just also being comfortable with the amount of time that it takes to really gain those skills and to become more confident in your ability to perform research. And I think that's something that I still sort of am dealing with. And I think that's really something that a lot of people experience, especially if you haven't been exposed to research before, just being comfortable with the process that it takes. As the Sixers say, trust the process. And so in terms of best practices too, I would say be very open with whoever you're planning to conduct research with, any labs that you're interested in. I'd say it's absolutely critical to just be open, be honest with your time, be honest with what you are comfortable with contributing, because again, navigating college is difficult. And there'll be weeks where you get just beat up by deadlines and classes, and so you have to be really comfortable with opening a dialogue and saying, this week I might not be able to contribute as much, but in the coming weeks, when I sort of have more time to breathe, then I can really focus back in on research. And so I think a lot of the faculty that conduct research also teach the courses that you'll take, and so they're very understanding. And I think, again, just being really open with your mentor, I think, is also a very important takeaway that I've learned.
Thank you both. Anthony, I heard you mention a couple of things in there. First, trust the process, which is fitting for your Zoom background, right? That comfort with, or that comfort with uncertainty, this idea of like critical application of your classroom skills. And this thought around managing expectations and setting boundaries on time. I think those are things that are going to serve you not just in a research environment, but just broadly in your personal, professional, and civic life. So that's great. Thank you. Janeli, Dr. Abeda, would love to hear about your lessons learned.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start on this one. So I think a lot of great things were said already. So I'll agree, like it's important to be sort of open-minded and adaptable when you enter the research relationship. And what I'll add is I is that one thing you want to keep in mind is that this is a relationship. So just like in any relationship, with a friend or a loved one, there's give and go within that relationship. And so for example, when I started working with Janeli, as you can sort of tell by Janeli's success getting into graduate school, that she's an extremely ambitious student. And so when I met Janeli, I knew that I had a superstar on my hand. I had somebody who was really driven and really motivated. And really my challenge was finding ways to sort of channel her energy and channel her motivation. And I think, and to Janeli's credit, she trusted me, and instead of, sometimes, instead of focusing, she sort of grew a lot. And over the course of the 2 years, I think where she grew the most is looking at the experience as acquiring skills. I think it's, for faculty and for students, there's a temptation to really see the research process in terms of outcomes, in terms of publications, or in terms of presentations. But what I found working with Janeli is when we really took the time to communicate and focus on what ways I could channel Janeli's ambition, her motivation, and maybe fill gaps and skills that or knowledge that she didn't have prior to the relationship, that sort of give and go was really important for the success of the projects. I think Janeli's success as well.
I couldn't have said it better. But Dr. Abeda, yeah, when I first started, I was just sophomore. I was just a second year student. I really came in with a lot of motivation and a lot of willingness to learn more about research. So one thing you have to keep in mind is that if you are willing to do this kind of research with professors, do it. Like, even if you have the motivation, you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. No, do it, because at the end of the day, you're building a relationship with the professor. You're not just gonna sit there and do studies with them. No, you're gonna get to know them, get the connection, and also learn more about them than you really think. Like, you might think, oh no, maybe they'll be a little harsh, a little strict. No, actually, they're there to help you see you succeed. And I learned a lot. Like, honestly, research is really fun, and I personally really like it. It's just really weird. I'm really ambitious. Like Dr. Beta said, I love doing a lot of things at once, and you gotta kind of control that. So coming into research, you got to understand that this is a priority, because professors are taking their time out of their schedules to teach you and to also help you grow. So you should put priority to their time as well, because they have students as well. They're not just doing independent research, they're also doing classes. So that's maybe like one of the key things you have to keep in mind when you join research, just that it's also your time, but it's also their time, where they could be also handling class issues or something like that. You need to kind of see whether or not, like, do I want to do this? Because honestly, you're going to gain a lot from it. I feel as though personally, I learned a lot. I have a good connection with Dr. Beta. Like, I know him. I know that if I ever have any issues, I can just email him and be like, okay, this is what happened. What do I do? And yeah, ambitious, yeah, because I applied to like a lot of schools because I just wanted my options. And getting to 5 grad schools is a lot, yeah. But just think about it, like, you have to kind of analyze what you want to do, because anything is possible, especially in research. You can learn so much, and it's actually worth it if you are kind of hesitant of what you want to do in the future. If you're a psychology major, yeah, I'll help you decide if you want to do something more so as counseling or more so as research, because it'll help you out to get the experience.
One of the things that I keep hearing coming up is like the mutuality of relationship being built, right? I think particularly over this past year of pandemic life, we've realized kind of our shared humanity in all of this. And to hear that faculty and students are able to kind of bridge those, divides of status or position, right, to work together as collaborators is really encouraging. Thank you, Janeli. Thank you, Dr. Abeda. I'm looking at our time. Time flies when we're having fun. But we do have one more question that we'd like to ask all of you before we see if the audience has any. And so for that, I'd like to turn things back over to Dr. Siegel.
Yeah, thanks very much. So we don't have a whole lot of time left, but so I would appreciate it if each of you try to be very succinct in your answers, but I think you've really made a very solid case for how valuable these partnerships are to both faculty and undergraduate students, and how much you can all benefit from them. So in the hopes that we can encourage more students to take part in this, and faculty as well, what would you suggest people take as some of the next steps that either students or the faculty should take to explore the participation in undergraduate research? And I'm going to start with Professor Moran and Juliana.
So I would say from a professor's point of view, if you really want to engage undergraduate students, first start thinking of some projects that are the right fit for the amount of time and availability that undergraduates have, because it is very different from working with graduate students. So just keeping a running list as ideas pop into your head. Oh, that'd be good for an undergraduate student. That'd be great for someone to do over the summer. And then talk to your students. You know, if you've had a student that you've had in a couple classes and you really see some potential in them, approach them. And the flip side is true for the student. Like if you want to do research, go for it. Unfortunately, there isn't like a massive posting board of all the undergraduate research opportunities, although there are some that are available on our various websites. But if there's a professor you want to work with or a topic that you want to get engaged in, definitely come and speak to the professor that does that sort of thing.
And to just quickly piggyback off of that, I would say also that professors or faculty should make research more appealing, because a lot of times when students come into school, they have like this one single mindset, like I just want to get a degree and be in my career. And in the meantime, they can do something like research, and that can help not only dictate their career, but also give the campus more of the research that they would like their students to engage in. So a lot of it is to make it more appealing, because I would say I had never have my professors really mentioned research, nor do they say the pros of it. So.
That's great. And hopefully one day we will have a list of all the research opportunities so that students will be able to locate where they might have opportunities. Thank you. And thank you for being mindful of the time. I appreciate that. So Professor Fu and Anthony.
Hi. I think for the future to explore this kind of the mentor-student relationship is for Anthony's case, he used his case. I think first let's talk about research. The research generally, I think for undergraduate research, there are two phases. Phase one is the basic training, and phase two is exploration. So in the basic training, I think Anthony, he passed the basic training. That means he need to pass the training so the other people can trust his performance and also data collection. So that's the first very important for undergraduate research. You need to have the training to ensure the accuracy of performance and the data collection. And for the next phase, for the research is, I will prefer students to be kind of more independent and then take over a small project than to accomplish it. This really kind of independent research project. So that's for research part. Then also students in the next phase, I think I will encourage students to expose to other opportunities. For example, look for research intern in another organizations, not just in Rutgers. But for example, for summer, I know Anthony is already contact some professor at UPenn, especially the nearby the Camden local area, UPenn or Temple. And so that student can look for some other experience in another institution. And also very important, I will encourage students to look for some fellowship opportunities. There are students nationwide fellowship opportunities, and also industry internships. So my lab has some connection with industry, and sometimes for me, I feel more comfortable to recommend students for industry interns if they have some laboratory experience, so I can evaluate them better and can refer them to other industry internship opportunities. I think all that will broaden students choice and opportunity for the future professional development.
Thanks, Anthony. Just be mindful of the time, please.
Yep. So I was just going to piggyback off of what Dr. Moran and Juliana said a little bit, and sort of tack onto that. I think they both made very important points that were basically a lot of what I was going to say. But the one point that I cannot stress enough is to get in early, and really try to build those research skills early on in college. Because again, I didn't really get my first research experience until just last year. And I feel like I've missed out a lot on that. And there are so many resources that you can take advantage of that I didn't know about until I got into research. That's, in the interest of time, just get in early and just really be open-minded to research opportunities.
Thank you. Perfect timing. I just got an Amber Alert that made my phone explode. So just in the interest of time, I'm just going to throw this open to Professor Myers and Audrey and to Professor Abeyta and to Janeli, if you want to add something to what they said. We do have one question from the audience. If we have a moment at the very end, I'll get to that. So to the four of you, sorry to truncate your time, but if you have something you want to add.
I want to second what everyone else has said already, but it reminds me that part of what we're bridging here is from the idea that knowledge is something that you sit in a classroom and absorb, right? To understanding that building knowledge is an exploratory process that we're always adding to. And I think as next steps, anything that we're all able to do within the classroom context as well, to build in that mode of thinking, it would be a great step toward future research projects.
I guess what I would add is a good first place to start is just by familiarizing yourself with the full-time faculty in your department. You could go to their website, to the faculty page in your department. So in psychology, there's a list of the full-time faculty, it lists their research interests, and a lot of them also have websites that describe their research interests. And with this whole idea of like keeping an open mind, read through those and find a few that their research sounds interesting, and just email them and say, hey, I'd like to get more involved. How can I do that? And I think I'd say that the most mentors would be happy to see that email hit their inbox, and if somebody replies to you positively, then that's a great sign of a potentially great mentor-mentee relationship. Just a quick plug, I'll be recruiting students to work in my lab for the fall. So if it's okay with Mike and Jane, I'd love to drop my website link into the chat. You could check out my research and decide if that's something you want to be involved in. And yeah, reach out to me, shoot me a quick email.
Great.
I know we're a little off time.
Yes, you can, Andrew, you can definitely put that in the chat. And I see that I think it's from Anthony Wright in the childhood studies. Is that right? In digital studies, who said that he's also open to talking with anyone. Oh no, that's Anthony. This Anthony, I'm sorry. So Anthony Montecarlo is saying that whoever wants to can reach out to him, and there you have Andrew's contact information. But Janeli, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. It's my fault. I'm so sorry.
Oh no.
I was just gonna say, like, Dr. Abeyta just announced, like, he always, in a class, I took him for at least one class, I believe, he would tell students, do independent studies, look for professors online, look what they're researching. I feel as though if you're trying to research, you should always look at professors like on the website, on the department site, because you'll learn more about them and you'll connect. I did that too. I was like, okay, let me read more. Like, it honestly does not take that long to read. And they also have their emails there, and you can always like maybe just be like, can I have a Zoom call with you guys just to see like if you guys will be a good fit, or to see whether or not like, are you good to do this? Like, do you have enough knowledge of what they're studying in order to feel comfortable to provide your knowledge and provide your time? Because it's not that hard to look for professors to be like, hey, I'm interested in independent study. actually, they want students to participate and to come into lab, because you're learning more and they're willing to be your mentor and follow up with you even after you graduate. Like there's mentors that actually like connect with you after and say, what are you doing? Like, how are you? Are you doing any research? Are you doing anything like that? And keep that in mind. Like, they're not just here to help you out. They're going to help you out regardless. Like later on, they're going to want to connect.
Right. And you can talk to faculty here who will tell you that they have mentors from their undergraduate days who have stayed in touch with them throughout their careers. And you can build some very valuable relationships. I know we're losing some of our attendees because I know they have to go because we've run over time. Audrey, is there any little nugget that you want to add real quickly?
Everyone has covered so much. I can only second everything that everyone has said, you know.
Okay, great. And there is one question asking how students found out about these research opportunities. I think you heard from some of our faculty about, you know, some ideas there. And as Kimberly pointed out, it would be nice if we had a central repository for opportunities, and we're working on that. So definitely. And do they sign up for an independent study once they've identified something, a professor or a project? Yeah, that's really the best way for them to go about doing this, is to get involved through an independent study, so they get academic credit for doing this. Some professors are fortunate enough to have some funding for their own through their own lab or something for a project, and they can actually pay some students to work with them. But generally, the students do independent studies. So I know we've run over. So on behalf of Michael and myself, I want to just thank you all for being here. I can't thank you panelists enough. You really are just, the students, you're just terrific. You know, as the Associate Dean, I'm very proud of you all. It's really wonderful to see. And I thank the faculty who are doing this so much. It's just a wonderful opportunity that you're giving to these students. So, you know, you're making a difference in people's lives, and that's really wonderful. So thank you so much. And we'll sign off.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and make sure to check out the rest of our Research Week events.
Yep.